Hey besties, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing something that I haven't done in a very long time. It's a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I, over the years, because I have a YouTube channel, have become very distant from being a mood reader. I am someone that typically has my TBR planned through the next 3 months because I'm always planning videos, and all the vlogs that I do require me to read anywhere from 3 to 5 books. It's a little bit hard to just pick whatever I want to read. Typically I have a theme, some sort of challenge that I'm doing. I want to bring myself back to the early days, back to my youth, when I used to just read whatever I felt like reading. I would look at my bookshelves, I would go to the library, I would just look around and be like, what am I in the mood for? We are going to start with a book that I picked out beforehand because I'm super in the mood for it. It kind of inspired me to do this vlog anyway because I was like, oh, I want to read this, but it's not fitting into my vlog concepts. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna find a way to do it. So did I come up with a vlog concept that would allow me to read what I wanted? Yeah. So, you know, it is what it is. The book that we're gonna start with is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I actually recently got access to Penguin Random House's audio influencer app, which allows you to listen to ALC copies of books that are coming out. And I'm so excited to read this because I love Emily Henry. I really do. I love most of her books. I did not like Happy Place, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm so excited to get into Funny Story. I feel like it's gonna be the perfect book to start off this vlog, just something that I'm in the mood to read. Besties, I have amazing news. I'm loving Funny Story by Emily Henry. I'm so excited that I'm liking this. So in this book, we're following our main character, Daphne, and she was engaged to this guy. And the entire time that they were together, he had this longtime childhood best friend that was a girl named Petra. And he always promised up and down, like, there's nothing between me and Petra. You have nothing to worry about. She's like a cousin to me. But then he goes on his bachelor party and she's there and they confess their love for one another. And so he comes home and he's like, Daphne, I'm leaving you. You have to move out of our house. So Petra had a longtime boyfriend named Miles, and he now has a vacancy in his apartment because Petra is moving out to go be with Daphne's fiance. And so basically Daphne's like, can we be roommates? And so it's all about them being roommates, and then they start fake dating. Every time I read an Emily Henry book, I'm just like, this is how romance books should always feel. Like, the writing is always impeccable. The chemistry between these two characters is just, ugh, chef's kiss. I also love their friendship because there's a lot of like, will they, won't they moments. And there was one intimate scene so far that was quite spicy. Honestly, it felt very steamy for an Emily Henry, and I was loving it. I was loving it, and I really like the guy character, Miles. I love him so much. He's so nice, and I love him and Daphne together, and I'm having such a great time. I'm so happy that I'm reading this, and I cannot wait to finish. I hope that it finishes strong, because if it does, I definitely will be pre-ordering the book for when it comes out, and then also I will put on my favorites list. Okay, I finished Funny Story, and I am obsessed. I'm gonna be giving it 5 stars, like literally obsessed. It was so good. Oh, I'm so glad that I read it. Obviously I was gonna read it no matter what, but I'm so glad that I found a vlog to read it in because I wanted to read it ASAP. Like, that was totally what I was in the mood for, and I just thought it was so cute. I loved the couple. I loved Miles, and I loved Daphne, and I loved that they had some imperfections that they had to work through. It actually really reminded me of my reading experience of You Again by Kate Goldbeck. I feel like if you liked that, you probably might like this book. Also, what I loved about Funny Story is that not only was it fake dating, but it was also kind of like friends to lovers, which is like my favorite trope. I love that so much. Like, I think that friends to lovers is better than enemies to lovers. You can fight me if you want, you can argue with a wall. Like, I think it's a better trope because I just love the feeling of people who like respect each other so deeply, like opening themselves up to one another. Ugh, and the sex scenes in this were so good. I think they were Emily Henry's best sex scenes, where they weren't too detailed, but they were very sensual and sexy, but like not gross. No offense to anyone who likes really raunchy sex scenes. It's just my personal opinion. I don't love fluids, and there was no fluids, and I love that so much. Like, it was detailed, but not too detailed. Like, you knew what was going on, you knew where the P and the V were, but like, it wasn't too much. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like this is the first Emily Henry in a while where I've been like so in love with it. I'm so happy that I read it, and I'm really grateful to Penguin for allowing me into their reviewing app so I could read it early. I feel like getting an early copy was really good. I am also going to pre-order like a physical copy because I need to have this on my shelf. Okay, we need to figure out what I'm gonna read next, and I actually have so much to choose from. Like, the world is my oyster. I don't know what to do with myself. I know I've already said this, but usually my TBR is planned like 3 months in advance, so it's like very weird to me to be like, wow, I could literally read anything. And I have so many books in my Audible library and saved on script, and I also have some stuff checked out from the library, and so I'm like a little overwhelmed, like trying to figure out what I'm in the mood for. But I feel like I kind of want a thriller, and I know on my Libro FM app, I'm actually in their advanced listening copy group as well, so I get random copies of books. Sometimes like every month they send me an email and then I'm allowed to like pick out what I want. And so I, a while ago, downloaded this book called Close Enough to Hurt by Katherine Olson. I did check on Goodreads and it looked like it had a fairly high rating. It had a 3.9, which I feel like is pretty good for a thriller. But basically it's kind of like a good for her revenge vigilante story about this woman who goes by this alias Lady Justice, and apparently she helps women and people get revenge on other people. I'm basically just skimming through the synopsis and telling you what I see here, and so this kind of sounds up my alley. I am very into supporting women's wrongs, good for her type vibe, vengeance, vigilante shit. Like, I'm into that, so I think this might be fun to listen to, and it's not too long of an audiobook. It's only 10 hours. And what's nice about this is that I can always DNF because this is a mood reading vlog. So if I start it and then I'm not in the mood to finish it, I can just DNF. Okay, besties, changing plans. I listened to like 2 chapters of Close Enough to Hurt last night and I was not feeling it. And so I actually went back to Goodreads to read some of the lower reviews because as I was getting into it, I started feeling like it was giving more romance than it was actual like thriller. And if the writing style had been a bit better, then I think I could have been into that. But it just wasn't giving femme fatale. It wasn't giving vigilante. It just was giving, she had a crush on this guy that she worked with. And everybody was saying that. They were like, hey, I started reading this because I was looking for a vigilante, good for her sort of story. And that is just like not what this is. It's a romance. Somebody said there's like a sex scene in it. And I was like, okay, I feel like this is maybe like a dark romance or something. I'm just not in the mood for that. So because this is a mood reading video, I was like, I need to read something else. So one of my patrons, Lexi, she actually put in the Discord that she just read Good Girls Don't Die by Christina Henry and she gave it 5 stars. And she is a person that is very picky with her ratings. And so when she gives a book 5 stars, I'm like, let me perk up, let me listen. We are kindred spirits in that way. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna read this. Also because Riley read Good Girls Don't Die last year when it came out and she really liked it. So I was like, okay, let me get into this. And Riley was telling me also that this book is kind of campy and you just kind of have to lean in to the vibe. So I started it and I'm already on part 2. I've been loving it. So it follows 3 different characters. I haven't gotten to the 3rd character yet, but in the first part, we're following this woman named Celia who wakes up in this life that is not her life. And she just knows that something isn't right. It's giving kind of like Don't Worry Darling. So she's kind of piecing things together. There's like a murder that happens and she's like, what is going on? Her part was super fun. I was really into it. I have some theories. Obviously I don't want to share them because I don't want to spoil, but I do have some theories about what is going on. In the second part, it's giving like Cabin in the Woods. We're following this girl named Allie and she is a like horror movie aficionado. And this weekend she's supposed to be going away for her birthday with her friends Madison and Cam to the beach. But when they're getting ready to go, all of a sudden their boyfriends show up. And Allie's pretty mad about this because there is a huge distance in our friendships because these girls are dating these guys. Anyway, Cam is dating this guy named Brad who's giving misogyny. He's giving peaked in high school. He's giving I'm the center of the universe, rich boy vibes. And then we have Steve, who is just dumb as rocks. He's giving like athlete. And so then they drink some alcohol as they're driving there and they all pass out except for Brad, who's driving. And we do not trust Brad. Brad is giving weird vibes. And when they wake up, they're at this cabin and Allie's like, what the fuck? We're supposed to go to the beach. And Brad's like, whatever, we're gonna have fun here, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, then as they stay in the cabin, there starts to be sounds like someone might be outside. And so that's kind of where we're at in this part of the book. Like they're trying to survive and Allie's using all of her like horror movie knowledge to try to survive. She's like, let's stay inside, let's stay together, let's stay here till the sun comes up. And so it's giving a lot of those tropes. So I am really, really enjoying this and I can't wait to see where it goes. And I'm so glad that I'm just like following my mood because I feel like if I had been doing a different video, I might have felt obligated to finish Close Enough to Hurt and I was not vibing with that book. Also, speaking of being in the mood for things, I was in the mood to wear this random Halloween sweatshirt that I have, even though it is currently March. I finished Good Girls Don't Die and I stayed up way too late. I've been trying really hard to go to bed before 2 a.m. I know that sounds really late to a lot of people, but for me, that is kind of like my goal bedtime. And I've been doing really well because I got a Hatch Restore alarm clock. If you've ever heard of it, it's this really expensive alarm clock for no freaking reason, but it has all these features that like allow you to like wind down at night. And you also like wake up to like gentle sounds. It's just really nice. You can look into it if you think it sounds interesting, but I got it because of the wind down situation in the evening. And it has like an app that goes with it and you can kind of like set up how you want to wind down, blah, blah, blah. So it has been so helpful in helping me get a routine and like a sleep hygiene sort of situation. And so I kind of forgoed it last night. Forgoed? Is that the past tense of that word? I'm not sure if I spoke proper English. Anyway, I skipped the wind down and I stayed up really late because it was Friday night and I loved this book. This is one of those books where it's like, I'm gonna tell you that I gave it 5 stars. Do I think that you would give it a 5 stars? Probably not. Like every negative review that I read of it online, I definitely could see and I could agree with. Like if someone told me they hated this book, I would be like, that makes so much sense. Like this is a 5-star for me. I don't know about you guys. This is my 5 stars. This is my truth. I just had so much fun reading this book. Like, is it heavy-handed? Does it lack nuance? Yes, absolutely yes. Like, is it derivative from all of the genres and things that it is examining and pulling from? Absolutely. I mean, that's on purpose because I feel like it's kind of like a parody book. And also, is the villain at the end kind of cartoonish and lame? And is the ending a little bit, tiny bit unsatisfactory? Yes to all of the above. But I don't care because I had so much fun when I was reading, and it's so hard for me to have fun when I read because I dislike so many things. It's just how I was made. I'm a very contrarian person. I don't mean to be this way. I just am a really tough critic. And so to come across something where I can kind of suspend my disbelief and just have a good time. Also, by the way, I realized that for most of my life, I've been saying suspend my belief. And then I found out from my patrons that the sayings actually suspend your disbelief. So I'm trying to correct myself, but it sounds wrong when I say suspend disbelief instead of belief. I guess I thought the saying was like you suspend your belief because you're like, oh, I don't really believe this. This isn't very believable. So let me just like take belief out of the equation, versus you suspend your disbelief because you're disbelieving it. That does make sense to me now that I've said it. This is intents and purposes all over again. I, for the longest time, way too long into my adult life, thought the saying was for all intensive purposes. And I found out later that it's intents and purposes. And I was like, okay, so I'm just an idiot is what I'm saying here. But anyway, this book was so entertaining. I had such a great time. I loved it so much. I loved the characters. I loved each of the girls' stories, which was really surprising because I'm not really a short story type of person, and that's kind of how it reads. Like you get a perspective from each of these girls and you kind of move on. The third story, I feel like I did not cover what the third story was. So basically it's about this woman who wakes up and she is put into this maze with these other women, and they're basically told like, we kidnapped your loved ones and you have to get to the end of the race and like people are gonna die and whatnot. It's very much giving like Maze Runner, Hunger Games kind of vibes. And I honestly thought when that POV started that I wasn't going to enjoy it as much as the first two, but I actually ended up thinking it was a really strong ending because there's a lot of interesting relations between the characters. Like I said, this book is super heavy-handed. Like the moral that it's trying to teach you is very obvious. The writing is a little bit clunky. It's kind of like, men are so bad. Men are horrible, la la la, which is obviously not a very nuanced view. Like this is not for the people who are looking for a book that has like finesse, a gentle touch, a little exploration of misogyny. Like this is straight up like, what if we cartoonized? Do I know English today? I don't know. What if we turned everyone into like a caricature and just had a good time? I had a silly goofy time. Like I feel like Christina Henry was just like sitting down to type at her computer and she was like, I'm mad at men today. Let me rate this book. And you know, honestly, girl, fair. She was in a silly goofy mood and I love that for her. I also would love if this was made into like a TV show or a movie. I feel like it could be like the new Cabin in the Woods vibes, because Cabin in the Woods is such an amazing satire movie. So I would love like an updated version of it because it's been a while since a movie like that. Oh, I guess The Blackening came out recently, which was fun. That was like satire comedy. I don't think it was like the best movie, but I did enjoy The Blackening. I'm not like a huge horror movie person, so I'm not like some like aficionado or something that knows a ton about this, but I do really enjoy parody and satire. So I don't know, I just had so much fun. And it's so much fun. So 5 stars for me. And I'm so happy that I read this because I feel like I would have never picked this up for any other vlog just because I don't really read for fun. That sounds so bad. Obviously, I always have favorites every year. So it's not like I don't have fun reading. It's that I don't pick my TBR based on what I want. I pick my TBR based on what I think people want to watch, which maybe is sad. It could be very, very sad. And I did get people being mean to me last year because they were like, you hate everything. Why don't you just pick what you want to read? And I was like, okay, but like, I want you guys to watch my videos and my views are gonna be low. But my goal for this year is to focus less on perfectionism and numbers and analytics and just focus on progress and positivity and just self-care. Like, I feel like I've been trying to be kinder to myself this year. And at the end of the day, who the fuck cares? Because there's nothing wrong with videos not getting very many views. Like, I don't think any less of people who have a video that doesn't do super well on their channel. Like, who cares? Especially because booktube is not my full-time job. I literally have a full-time job, 9 to 5, working in tech. Like, this isn't an income thing for me. Like, I do make like a little bit of money that's nice for adding to my savings and paying down my student loans. So thank you all so much for watching. Oh, let me switch to the Gen Z heart. The Gen Z heart is so hard for my hands to do. Maybe I'm just a crotchety old millennial. But like, this is difficult for me. But honestly, love you guys so much. I didn't really expect to get into a weird discussion about views, but I guess I'm just kind of explaining why I'm not a mood reader and why I don't really let myself do like regular like cozy weekly reading vlogs and things like that, just because that's not really what my audience wants to see. Man, why are you licking my elbow? Back to this video. I think that the book that I am in the mood to read next is going to be Yumi and the Night Painter, because this is so beautiful, and everyone says this is so great. I already read Trust of the Emerald Sea, so I really enjoyed that secret project of Brandon Sanderson, and a lot of people say they like this even more, and I am very intrigued. I feel like this cover is giving cute like Sailor Moon anime vibes, and I love that. This is also one of the most expensive books on my shelf, so I feel like I should read it because the art in here and everything is so beautiful. Sorry, I'm trying to find some art. Oh, there we go. Oh my god, that is gorgeous, gorgeous. So I'm excited to pick this up. Okay, besties, I finished Yumi and the Night Painter, and I did really enjoy this. I don't think I liked it quite as much as Trust of the Emerald Sea, but I'm still gonna give it 4 stars, and I had a good time. I think what I struggled with was the age of the characters. It's not a YA book, but both of the characters are 19, and they act a little bit immature. So we're following these 2 characters. We've got Yumi, and then the guy that simply goes by Painter. So in his world, there is this shroud that kind of clouds the land, and so they kind of live in a permanent nighttime, and so his job is to go around at night with a paintbrush, and whenever these like shadowy creatures come out, he paints them into like more innocent creatures so that he can like protect the people in the city. And then we have Yumi, obviously, and she is what they call a yokihijo, and her job is to create art that pleases the spirits so that the spirits can grant wishes and boons to the people like in her land. And so she's kind of like a spiritual figure. There's this whole religion surrounding what she does, and her art is very specifically stacking rocks. And so when she stacks the rocks really high and it's very intricate, the spirits come and she's able to ask them for things. We're introduced to each of these characters separately, and then one day the painter actually wakes up in Yumi's body. There is something that has gone wrong. There's been some sort of wish slash thing happening with the spirits where they are now kind of linked to one another. So whenever he is in Yumi's world, he is inside her body and has to kind of carry on doing things for her. But then when he goes to sleep, they actually wake up in his world, and Yumi, instead of being in his body, she's still her and he's just a spirit. And so now they're like intrinsically linked. So they spend a whole month together trying to figure out like why the spirits did this. But I think because the characters were so young, they just acted really immature, especially Painter. He was annoying the shit out of me. I definitely liked Yumi way more than I liked him. I also think that the romance aspects of this were not as strong as I thought they were going to be, because this is labeled as Brandon Sanderson's most romantic book, and I wasn't really seeing it. I wasn't really feeling it. I kind of felt like the love between these 2 characters was kind of I don't know. I really did enjoy the story overall, but I think what I liked about Trust of the Emerald Sea more is that it's more found family, and I like pirates, and there's a lot of characters, versus this is a more insular story about these 2 characters because it is a romance between them. I will say, if I didn't have this really beautiful special edition, I might unhaul it, but this is probably one of the most beautiful books that I own, so I'll probably keep it on my shelves. Moving on, I think that the next book that I'm going to read is Strange Practice by Vivian. I would say that I'm just in the mood for this just because it's been on my TBR for a long time, but actually it's my book club pick for the month, and our live show is on Saturday to talk about it, so I'm kind of like forcibly in the mood for this, but I just thought I would include it in this vlog since I do have to read it next, and technically I am in the mood to be prepared for my book club. So we'll have to see what I think of this. This has been on my TBR for so long. I think I added it because someone in the comments once recommended it to me. I know that it's following this woman named Greta Helsing, and she is a doctor that specifically treats like supernatural creatures like vampires and werewolves and mummies. I've heard a lot of good things. I know a lot of people like this series, so I'm kind of excited to get into it. I will say that my patrons have been talking about it on Discord, and a lot of them have been rating it 3 stars or less. So it's not a promising time. It's okay, we're gonna read it and we're gonna see what I think. I always wondered why not many people talked about this book, because I thought the plot sounded great. The cover was cute. I kind of see why no one talks about it. It's kind of boring. It's so boring. It's one of those books where I was reading it for over a week, and you know when you just like forget that you're reading something? Like I kept being like, oh, what am I gonna read next? And then I'd be like, oh my god, I'm in the middle of reading Strange Practice. It was not memorable. Like I said earlier, Greta is a doctor who treats paranormal supernatural creatures like mummies and vampires and werewolves. And there is this cult of monks rampaging through London, like killing people. You would think with murder and cults and weird religion stuff and demons and vampires and that sort of thing, that things would be more interesting, but they simply were not, which is crazy. So unfortunately, I'm gonna give this 2 stars. It's definitely the biggest flop. My patrons and I are actually about to have our book club discussion in like 20 minutes.
What about it felt pretentious, or like you don't feel like people talk like that?
Everyone was whipping out like 3-syllable words and like talking like they came out of like a Regency romance. Like, oh, I would not pertain to trouble you, sir. And like, it felt like that.
Unfortunately, I don't think this was the best way to end a mood reading vlog on such a sour note, but I did really love everything else that I read in this vlog. I gave both Funny Story and Good Girls Don't Die 5 stars, which was amazing. I love that for me. And then I gave Yumi the Night Painter 4 stars. Although upon reflection, I kind of feel like it's more of like a 3.5 star rating for me. I probably will rate it 3 stars on Goodreads, but like I said, the book is very beautiful, so I'm still gonna like keep my copy of it, but it didn't stick with me the way that Trust There Will See did. That kind of brings me to the end of this mood reading vlog. If you've made it to the end and you enjoyed it, feel free to use the crystal ball emoji. For some reason, this gives me like moody vibes. I wish there was like a mood ring sort of emoji, but there isn't, so we're gonna just go with the crystal ball. Leave that in your comment if you feel so obliged. And I thank you all so much for watching. You're all beautiful. Have a nice day.